Okay. Hello. I don't know what I was thinking yesterday. I said that the equinox was going to be on Monday or something, but it's literally on Thursday of this week. So I'm just going to do a little check-in today as well. And I'll do a longer reading on Thursday. Something that has come through right now, and this is going to sound like crazy to some people, but if you're a woman or if you have a womb and a uterus, there's a collective clearing going on of feminine sexual energy right now. And I think I talk a fair amount about sexual energy, but I'm going to be talking about it a lot in the future because, as I've touched on in the past, it really is life force energy. Creative energy, sexual energy is all about evolution through our own lives and through our bodies. And I'm just saying this because if you are a woman, like regardless of where you're at in your cycle right now, you might be feeling crampier than usual or more exhausted than usual. And it has to do with the Virgo full moon. So I just wanted to put that out there for any ladies who might be experiencing that. And I'm going to start with my normal tarot. I'm just going to get right into it. What else did I have? I had another message, but it'll come to me if it's supposed to. Sexual energy, yeah, clearing in the feminine collective. So it also has to do with a lot of people with Venus retrograde for the past 6 months, or let's just go for the whole year. I mean, you could even go back to 2016, 15, 2017, whatever cycles that we began thereabouts in that time period. A lot of people probably went through restructuring of relationships. So maybe like walking away from people that we're not really aligned with anymore, even if you were kind of set in a relationship. So that could have been like, I don't know, breakups or moving out of like a place with roommates or new kind of communication relationally with family members. But particularly for sexual energy in females, I believe that the clearing that's happening right now is because we're meant to connect with people in like a purer sexual way. There's a lot of really convoluted sexual energy in the collective spaces. And so people who are like vibrationally expanding right now and anchoring in higher frequency energy and being able to maintain that and like hold that even when you're around other people. What's coming with that is a clearing out, and this could probably be affecting men as well, or people who do not have a womb or a uterus, because we all do have feminine masculine polarity via anima and animus. It's just, more dominant in one capacity or the next, and then regardless of how that manifests, you can still have them in healed components in relation to one another within the individual. So just wanted to put that out there, and I'm going to use my pink cards to clarify this. All right. So current energy, energy to embrace, energy to release. That was current. There she is. It's the Eight of Swords. Again, feeling trapped, feeling stuck. And again, I see this as like yesterday, energy to embrace. It was that Two of Swords stalemate energy. And so the reading that I did leading up to the full moon, it was almost like the Two of Swords and the Eight of Swords. We were making this conscious pivot around what we can control, what we can't, how we continue to keep ourselves stuck and remain in a closed circuit between Seven of Swords and Eight of Swords energy, where we're kind of disempowering our ability to put a different type of input into a cause and effect loop that has been very familiar to us. Let's see what the energy to embrace is. Three of Wands, looking out, strategizing, understanding that we are going in a new direction and that takes time and planning. And I talked about not necessarily being comfortable right now. I think there's a little bit of discomfort around our mental processes and what the mind is inclined to do in the name of preparation and foresight. So I'm seeing this as with the Page of Pentacles yesterday as like the advice for all of that. It is still about like the singular idea or the thing that's pushing things along without getting too overstimulated around like the details of that. So I see this because he's looking out at like a big view, a big landscape. It's an assessment of the journey in its entirety, not the nuances of it. So that's important right now, because I think that we are having a hard time, potentially, if you resonate with the way that I am keying into these energy cycles, having a hard time staying away from that more detailed, analytical, I need to be on it type of, relating to the transitions that we're going through. And so right now, Three of Wands energy to embrace, it's a scaling back, and it's a trust that like the journey, well, it's again, we talked about this back in June. It is the sustained new cycle. So the creation of more stability, again, like the bamboo that has to germinate for, I don't know, maybe I'm making this up. I think bamboo is under the earth, under the soil for like 5 years, but then it shoots up and it grows very quickly. And so we can think about it like that. And we want to see more tangible evidence than we do right now. And so you have to be really patient and cultivate that like faith in the unknown and the unseen, but partner it with the steps that you're guided to take. I know this is vague, and I know it sounds like I say this all the time, but there's little differences in each reading and every day, and a lot of the things that are changing right now. But neutrality is my point. Neutrality, because when we overthink, it tends to go negative. You don't really see people caught up in their thoughts because they're so excited and they're fueling positive. They're attaching positive emotion to things that haven't happened yet. Typically, like 85% of the time, overthinking just leans negative because it's unproductive and it's unnecessary, and it's the ego trying to control a situation that is more so going to be unfolding naturally. And even when we do make ourselves feel better around that process of trying to see how everything's going to go, typically things don't go exactly to plan. They deviate a little bit. So the more we can remain neutral and kind of detached while also pleasantly expectant and not necessarily anxious, more so just like excited, and using that to continue assessing the bigger picture, I think that we'll be able to manage just fine right now with that. What's the energy to release right now? That wanted to jump, but I'm not going to take it. Let's just see. Energy to release. There she is. It's the High Priestess, yeah. So trying and intuiting into the situation more than it is available. It's almost like, well, clarify, release, High Priestess. It's too many. It's too many. That was like 7 cards. So clarify, release, High Priestess energy. Okay. It's 2, so we'll take it. Okay, what I'm understanding from this, when it's talking about releasing this High Priestess energy, we've got victory, success, recognition, riding back into the town after a victorious battle, really. He's been successful in what he's set out to do. And this is the well, indicating that infinite wellspring of creativity in our depths that we can draw from as like creators. And this ties back to being a feminine character on this card. Understanding that like in order for, I always say this with energy healing because of, I haven't shared this in a while, but I am certified as a medical intuitive healer to see and detect blockages in the body that are there for whatever reason. They could be inherited or, created through stagnation of emotion or through trauma, but being able to identify those and then remove them from the body. We're doing a lot of that to have a healthier, creative, sexual, and therefore manifested experience, because it all goes hand in hand. So when we're releasing High Priestess, I'm sorry if you can hear the squeaking. It's the dog. It's knowing that this is a really deep reignition, a reigniting. I'm almost seeing something that was like a cable with a lot of sinews getting broken, and we're reattaching the proper, again with the circuitry. It's like something has been severed, and this could be gradual. It could be something that's been taking place for the past year, or those previous cycles that I mentioned, 2019, 2015, 16, or 17. Like everybody's kind of, overlapping and coalescing as these things take shape because they manifest differently in different people's lives, the timelines of that. But those cable sinews are growing back together, and I think we have a lot of say through our intention and our healthy, positive, realistic, healed expectation around what we don't want to experience anymore, what we would like to experience. So that is how you partake in the reconnection, the reignition of this better feeling, right? Like a new path. Because it's in the name of alignment. I think a lot of people have had to do some pretty hard things over the last year and a half, or they've been trying to grow out of certain things, situations, people, partnerships, because they know on a deep level that hasn't been fully aligned for them. So we need to release this kind of desire, again, to see and control in a way that's outside of us, because our work lies in remaining creatively open to the fact that what is coming is going to bring us victory and success in the ways that we want it. You know, that's personal for everybody. Some people want to be famous and some people want to be anonymous but stable, you know. Some people are really focused on relationships, some people work. And that's beautiful. We all have a different definition of what success means to us. And we're being able to see that. Like, I'm also hearing this thing around like what you wanted then isn't what you want now. So if you've still been pushing blindly for something, maybe it's time to reassess if you even really want it. Because sometimes we get so wrapped up in this process of pushing the ball, you know, Sisyphus style, up the mountain, and we fail to take stock of whether or not it's really a fruitful pursuit for us in the long run based on how we're evolving right now. So I'm going to take top of the deck and bottom of the deck. Top of the deck is going to be clarifier for the Eight of Swords and the current energy, and the bottom of the deck is going to be the clarifier for the Three of Wands and the energy to embrace. Yeah. This is so funny because the Emperor continues to be in the current energy. It was yesterday, it was last week, and I think that's just because what I just talked about with like maybe things weren't aligned, Venus retrograde, all these other retrogrades. That is like pretty rare for us to be bombarded with some destabilizing energy in the way that we were this summer. But we're seeing that it's giving us more stability. We feel more in our power. We feel more able to protect the things that are important to us with that Emperor energy. It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, male, female, whatever, you know. It's about the competency of healed masculine polarity. And I've shared this before, but my sun sign's Cancer, but my rising sign is Aries. So I possess a lot of the kind of Emperor matter-of-factness and confidence around the things that I want and intend to execute because it's prominent in my chart. And then Six of Wands is also fire. So this is a fiery combo. Whereas Eight of Swords is air energy of the logic again. So this is coming back in. I asked for clarification to just remind us that I think no matter what's going on in your life right now, give yourself more credit, you know? I don't want to say this like lightly, but when you look around, a lot of people act like they have it figured out. A lot of people don't. And if they think they do, maybe they're not necessarily aligned. Like this stuff right now isn't easy, like especially because of how we're all connected and what you do doesn't exist in a vacuum. We do impact the people in our lives, and sometimes we want to make changes that we don't think are going to be, who knows, well received. That's a little off base to the collective energies. I think it's more about feeling competent, confident, protected, and able to protect the things that are important to us and advocate for those with like a healed throat chakra, not being afraid to express. And I shared this, I think it was last week or the week before in a reading talking about a friend of mine who's in his early 50s, and he was dealing with some relationship problems with some women and talking about how he sees it. And I, as me, just being a friend, thought that he saw it in a very, you know, fair assessment of the whole situation. And like he was pretty grounded and not being triggered by some of the more like unhealed expressions of feminine energy that he was dealing with. And yet he said, well, you know, then fuck it. I don't need to, and I think that he was not able to take it like a lot of men to the finish line as far as like, well, I know it, so it doesn't matter. we actually, just like cells, you know, are particles who have chemical reactions at this microscopic level. It's like an open-ended transaction, you know. You don't necessarily have to have somebody else understand you in order to move on, but to not give that final expression, I just saw it as him kind of closing down his throat chakra. And also not really trying to express the standpoint that he possessed because he already thought it was doomed. It's kind of a defeatist attitude really around like, well, I can't change it anyway. And it's like, it doesn't seem like you tried. And you have nothing to apologize for because it seemed like what he was going through and how he felt as a result of that was really valid. So, yeah, Emperor energy reminding us that there are some self-imposed limitations that we can feel a little bit better about than we're giving ourselves the space to believe in. And I'm also hearing you don't want to be let down again. I think a lot of people have a healthy level of skepticism because of past hurts and stuff, but this is this is such a different cycle than we've seen in a long time. Like on Earth. Like anybody who's alive today hasn't seen this cycle. And I said I was going to get bottom of the deck to clarify the Three of Wands and the energy to embrace. And it's the King of Swords. So another strong masculine energy. And just piggybacking off of that, it's, yeah, not necessarily just about maintaining that healed masculine. Like, I do feel clear about how I feel and what I can do as a result of that. But the energy to embrace, again, with the swords, this can have to do with communication. And it's communication that is fair and it's justified, but it's not like coddling. It's not doing any work on behalf of other people. It's a clean, clear expectation that is solidified within the mind and the heart and the energy of an emperor-esque character. And then it's communicated with clarity, right? It just cuts through all of the illusion. So that's the energy to embrace. And this could have to do with being really honest about ourselves too, as of yet with like what we're still potentially not really feeling good about and why that may be. Perhaps it's something around the discomfort that just happens when we go through really big, like with this new moon in Virgo. Like I haven't felt this drained on a new moon in a very long time. Really, really, really drained and exhausted and like hungry for that matter, just needing to eat more food and hydrate a lot. So I'm just going to use the pink cards to get hidden energy. I'll get 3 cards for hidden because I feel like there's a lot of it right now. And it's funny because it's asking us to release High Priestess, which is intuiting through our own ability, you know, to tap into that higher self and see things from this higher vantage point. I think the hidden energy is complicated. And it's not our job to detangle it. We're supposed to stay in the moment and focus on our truth and articulating that to ourselves and therefore other people if we need to. But it doesn't hurt to see what it is just to make sense of things more. Happy birthday to anybody who's a Virgo. So funny in our lives as we like continue existing and meet new people. I've always had just a collection of people that I've known who have birthdays during this time. Oh, I feel like these cards are so hard to manage. They were pretty cheap, but they were so pretty, so I don't really care that they're so slippery, you know? It's kind of just a fun deck to have. All right, I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna get 3 off the top, and we're gonna go with a 3-card hidden energy spread for this. Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands. 6 of Swords. And the 10 of Pentacles. Yeah, that all bodes very well. So we have the Queen of Wands. That is... Well, let me just think about this for a sec. I'm actually going to get one more. Six of Swords, Ten of Pentacles, Queen of Wands, and the Page of Swords. All right. So the Six of Swords is moving on to bigger and better things. It's a transition from one state of being to another. You can see he's on the boat. They're setting sail. They've got the swords. They're prepared. Page of Swords is what came out yesterday when I was talking about the fact that we have this inclination to be out there, you know, wielding the sword, getting prepared for the battle, but we would do better to be in, you know, Four of Swords. And today I did feel it necessary to come on and do another reading because it was an energy check-in yesterday. Guess what? The energy changed. So the energy to embrace today is Three of Wands. Which is more about the outward facing approach to why we're still moving towards the bigger picture, right? With that big landscape that he's overseeing. It's not this, you know, what does it look like right now today, what I'm doing. And so for all of this being in the hidden energy, I'm seeing almost a mirror between Hierophant and, the victory with the Six of Wands, the success. Ten of Pentacles, the Emperor, Queen of Wands, Queen of Swords. There's so much like stability and abundance within the discomfort right now. It's just about not letting your thoughts or your negative thinking get the better of you and reminding yourself how much you have overcome in a variety of ways. Because a lot of people, we're all different. People have different strengths. Some people are very empathic. Some people are very strategic. Some people are very analytical. And I do believe that as we move through these energy cycles, they have been asking of us all summer to kind of rove through those different skill sets and apply ourselves in different ways on an ongoing basis. And it's been a little bit yo-yo-y and whiplashy, but we're growing a lot through that. We're able to say, I'm a dynamic person who can, you know, be both and. Like I can be really honest and state my needs and my boundaries while still being kind and friendly. I can be really like maternal and feminine and of the moon and feel very, you know, in a female energy while still being somebody who goes out and gets things done in a more masculine and dominant energy way. And so I do want to pull, I'll get one from each deck, one from this one from this one off the top. This is about like really what we're moving into right now. Okay, two cards to clarify what it is that I've been talking about. Okay, so it's the Three of Swords and it's the Nine of Wands. So Nine of Wands has to do with, I think earlier in this reading I said we have a healthy level of skepticism. This is just human nature. Whether or not you consciously retain information from all your experiences, this is how, you know, we become jaded, but also prepared, educated, more understanding and mature of how things in the world work. But there can be overcompensations where we don't let ourselves experience certain things if we don't really acknowledge what we've been through in its entirety and what it means and how we played a role and then how another person played their role. So what I'm seeing, what we're moving into, is understanding that you do need to kind of put yourself out of a comfort zone. If we're being defensive, we're not going to be able to experience, and you see, this is heartbreaking grief and stuff, but we've got Ten of Pentacles. That's full stability, you know, Queen of Wands, King of Swords, Emperor. And the Nine of Wands can also denote kind of a rigidity around wanting things. I think it has to do kind of with control again. I mean, it's not a classical interpretation, but if I'm asking about what we're moving into, it just brings me back to the fact that it's important to remain somewhat neutral around the changes right now while still attaching, if you do get wrapped up into things where you're like, well, how's that going to go? Remember that this is a co-creative, collaborative universe where you can draw up the emotion, the idea, the vision of how you want it to go. And envision it working out really well. Instead of being like, I've always had to do things this way. This is how I protect myself. This is what I have to lose. This is what I care about. There might be some tired perspectives and they're right in front of our face. It's like we can't see, oh, maybe I'll repost that reading. I recorded one called The Forest for the Trees or something, Seeing the Forest for the Trees, probably in July. I won't repost it. It's back there. If you want to watch it, I'm getting that the energy of that reading is relevant again. Because again, with the microcycles, there's macrocycles and microcycles. Let's clarify this though. We've got pending heartbreak and disappointment that comes from a lack of flexibility. What else with that? The Three of Pentacles and the Five of Cups. I need one more clarifier for this because it could go one of two ways. King of Wands. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. What I'm hearing is that we might be able to enter a new phase right now where not only are we really independent, whether or not you have a partner, whether or not you're married or single or dating or whatever, we're entering a point in time where we can be really independently autonomous within just how we feel about ourselves and what we have going on in our lives, but we're still able to connect with other people. And a lot of the times if people do, really, I don't know, if they're in a very social mode or they're having a job where they are part of a team and they're constantly collaborating with others, maybe they don't have a whole lot of other, personal projects and things going on. And I spoke of this a little while ago as well, because somebody told me one time, a psychiatrist, she said to me, throw out the idea of being balanced. It's simply unattainable. All we can ever do is kind of rove between the areas of our lives that require us and attempt to do that in a more equal way as time goes on, and not be so hard on ourselves when we are giving more, of our energy or our attention to an area that needs more energy and attention, as long as we know how to recenter and come back and not wagon and cart again. Well, that actually pertains to a different thing that has to do with being collected rather than being reactive and less grounded. But the same idea around returning to more of a central locus within our ability to kind of feed things simultaneously. So what I'm getting is that we're entering this time where we can have it all. I sound like such a classic tarot card reader right now. I should put a really clickbaity title. You can have it all. Seriously though, I think we're remembering a time when we've been disappointed by how things haven't worked out. Again, with the Three of Swords and disappointment. But the things that we're being asked to let go of are it's the same type of rigidity that you wouldn't even want to carry forward. And I'm also hearing something about the past 6 months. I think a lot of people have done a really good job of moving through things. But for most of us, because we're only human and it's hard to discern all of this stuff energetically in a way that helps us remain compassionate or have a bigger picture from a spiritual perspective because of our day in, day out and what our lives require of us. Because of that, there have been some straggler items, right? Some things that we actually just kind of maybe subconsciously, but for some reason was well, maybe I don't have to get rid of that aspect of my behavior or my relationship. But it does kind of still fall in this category of things that aren't meant for us, things we're meant to move away from. The universe will show you in so many ways if something is aligned or not for you, and it's really just up to you to perceive that or not. And no one else can tell you about that. I'm not saying that you're missing something that you should have let go of, because in your own energy, it's that deep inner knowing of well, I really do still need to work on, I don't know, my relationship to alcohol, or I simply can't bear to break up with this person. Maybe need to kind of cross this threshold still, because what's on the other side of that, 10 of Pentacles, King of Wands, I never even showed these cards, did I? So it was the 5 of Cups, the King of Wands, and the 3 of Pentacles. We've got collaboration and networking with others and being able to take from yesterday's card with the advice and the Page of Pentacles, now with the 3 of Wands. There's so much coalescing from different elements, different suits of the tarot, but it's all feeding in to this level up where we can, I'll say it again, have it all. We'll feel balanced, we'll feel confident, we'll feel like we can access some type of love. And I said again, it doesn't matter if you're partnered or not. It's about self-love and feeling like you're not left out in the cold and not fearing like you will be again. And it doesn't mean that you've like lilted into this imbalance. It is because we've never been able to attain and achieve this kind of leveled balance. I'm going to clarify that because I feel like it's a little confusing. I feel like it's a little confusing, but honestly, the people who resonate with this message right now will resonate with it, and the people who don't know what I'm talking about will be like, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. But as always, you can email me if you have questions. All right, this card's going to be the advice for what I talked about. Clarifier and advice. I'm looking for 2 cards here. 4 of Pentacles. Yeah, that came out in our current energy yesterday. It was from the other deck, but... So advice with the 4 of Pentacles. Show me, please. Yeah. 4 of Pentacles. So again, with the stable energy, but there's a cautionary thing within this of not clinging too tightly, because with Judgment, I think that as with anything, our free will is very chancy, and we're starting to realize that our free will is one of the most exquisite manifesting things that we possess, because from a healed standpoint, you know, why would you want something that's not good for you? A lot of people self-sabotage because, like with women, right? A lot of women will attract a man who she's only attracted to his potential, because then on a subconscious level, she will, you know, validate the fact that she's not deserving of somebody who's healed, because if you get together with somebody based on their potential, then it's almost guaranteed to not go anywhere, you know, because you meet that person where they're at. And if you're not loving them where they're at, then it's built on this faulty foundation. And we can make it very, very difficult for the universe to bring us the things that we're asking for when we refuse to let go. Oh, I never finished this thought. I was talking about removing, energy blockages from the body with medical intuitive healing. It's the same thing with our lives, you know? If there's this amazing person who you're meant to be with in a really happy, healthy, stable, mutually loving, supportive partnership, but you already have a spouse, they're not going to give you another one. They're just going to keep showing you why you don't really feel like your best self in that partnership, you know? They're just going to keep showing you why maybe it would be healthier for your children to see you split up and be with somebody who's healthy, instead of continuing to model a relationship where there's not actually healed and true love, you know, being shown between 2 people. Because as I said before, children learn as you do, not as you say. But my point with all this, with Judgment coming up, is that, I mean, this is a very good thing. I think that I've said this before too. The universe knows you better than you know yourself. There's a lot of things that we forget from our childhood around like what motivates us and how we see ourselves being able to partake in the world. And then over time, we kind of close down because the real world seeps in. You have to pick a way to exist in the world, and we kind of give up on childhood dreams or ideas. And Judgment is saying, release the High Priestess. Don't try to see how this is all going to turn out by intuiting into spaces, because it's almost like, again, with the invisible ink thing that you can do with sending an iMessage, and it looks all sandy and granular and then it fills in. That's what you'd be looking into right now. If I try to see into the future, it's not clear. Shaking the magic 8-ball, like try again later. So there's a trust that has to come from knowing that whatever is still being pushed on, maybe you have to admit that you've been keeping yourself stuck or in something that creates stuckness, in something that creates disappointment, self-fulfilling prophecies. But then the other side of that coin is like, well, we do know what we want. I think most people do. I think most people who are going to watch this reading understand what I'm talking about when I say what we want, because I've been talking for so long about cycles and new beginnings and kind of a new lease on life because of really big closeouts. So the lasting thought is that it's going to happen anyway, but we have a lot of opportunity to make that easier on ourselves. And I'm also getting something around the fact that like sometimes people don't want to step up and change something because it will, just change on its own or fizzle out, and they don't want to have to be the one to, I don't know, disappoint somebody else. But that's a cowardly way to go about it. If you know something and something's true on the inside and you have the kind of the wherewithal to do something that you haven't done before or assert yourself in a new way that the situation's asking of you, but you're like, well, I can just pass on that, the dust will shake out. Like it'll come out. Maybe they'll decide that they don't want to be with me. Who knows? It's sort of a betrayal to your own power. You're saying to the universe, I'm just going to camp out here and protect all of this, even though I don't, quite align with it anymore. And so you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And so if we're in denial about certain things around release or okay, so I just got shown like a rock, and you lift it up, and underneath it is all these bugs and worms. You know how that happens when you lift up rocks? I don't know who's been out there lifting up rocks lately. This could be a synchronicity if you were in the woods or something and like lifted up a rock. Anyway, sometimes it's not necessarily the thing that's wrong, the person or the partner or the job. It's what's under the rock, because it speaks to something that we're unwilling to heal that has to do with that situation, because that situation is protecting us from having to work on what's underneath, but it's still there. It's still there. So that's kind of food for thought as well. It may not have to be with the outward facing expression or manifestation of some type of pattern in our lives. I think it goes deeper than that. So my advice would be, don't necessarily sit there and scan all the things that you have going on and all the people and all the relationships and all the feelings, and be like, no, it looks pretty good. This is what I want. I would look to, kind of the deeper fixture, or I'm seeing the root of a molar, a tooth, right? Tooths are quite long, actually, the nerves, adult teeth. And also, right, ego, super, the iceberg. So it's asking us to look to the root and just do a reassessment, because there will be more tower energy, which came out yesterday. There will be more towers because of judgment, right? And kind of like divine ordinance and how things are trying to restructure, because this is collective energies. It's not just us. It's not just you. It's not just them. It's collective. It's, I believe, affecting all people right now. All right. What's on the bottom of the deck for just leaving it off? Yeah. And this came out yesterday as energy to embrace. So instead of being a little bit, jumping the gun with it, make sure to take time to rest, as I've been saying. And particularly if you're a woman, well, this can go for both men and women, but I was talking about the clearing of feminine sexual energy in the collective that's going on right now. But if you do have any, I don't know, there's a lot of different things you could be experiencing with this exhaustion and this clearing out, like little headaches, speak to your body and speak to it kindly and give it permission to do what it's doing. A lot of the times when we experience physical pain, we think that something's wrong, but it could be something that's productive. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not a medical person in any way, but I do know how energy works in the body. So give your body permission to do what it needs to do to welcome new energy and unlock codes in your DNA, really, that haven't been accessed. Because a lot of us walk in the world and live in a way that feeds into almost like a calcified, you know, mechanically that's not the right word at all, but like calcifying, locking in these DNA codes. I'm seeing if the matrix in the way of the world and the 3D life that we blindly accept culturally, and then all of a sudden you're, you know, having a midlife crisis and you're like, why am I not happy? And it's because of all these different really flawed paradigms in the world, that almost strives to calcify this DNA in this, like, it's almost like a, yeah, almost like code convolution, because we are, I mean, we're kind of like batteries, right? We're kind of like machines, just like a plant. You could write down what a plant needs in terms of molecular structures, photosynthesizing, right? There's a whole process that needs to take place with the CO2, the chlorophyll. We are the same, you know, you need water, you need food, you need a certain very delicate balance of minerals like magnesium and zinc and our bodies. And there's a full expression of a human imbalance that is not what a lot of people experience today because of all of these very challenging environmental factors. So give your body permission to do what it needs to do right now to kind of set yourself free of that calcification. Like, you can even do visualizations and imagining your double helixes, like, you know, poof, poof, like crumbling. I'm seeing like all this dust kind of crumbling off and allowing all of this kind of new energy to unlock things within you and help you stabilize as somebody who feels better more consistently and isn't limited by feeling really bogged down. A lot of people are naturally, a lot of us are bodily trying to ascend with the energy expansion. But if we don't have the context within our consciousnesses to understand how that's going to feel and affect the body, then it can be, I don't know, potentially startling, right? If something's wrong or something, you go to the doctor, and then because that's kind of a business, right? They'll want to give you, I mean, I'm not saying all doctors just operate on a transactional level. There are wonderful, wonderful medical professionals in the world who genuinely care about their patients and blah, blah, blah. But they're trained to diagnose you and fix your problem. And I just think that self-talk and just a conscious connection to the sensations in the body right now will be really useful for people. So that said, I will come back on Thursday and do an equinox reading. And the biggest message that I got from this is just like remaining neutral and understanding that we're in a more dynamic space and that it's preparing us to be in that more permanently, but not feel so overextended. We will more easily feel good about being in many modes when our lives require it of us, because we can handle it, you know, 10 of Pentacles. So all good things. Hope everyone's well.